All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. Welcome everyone to the space. Hopefully you're in the right space. You're here to talk about the Board of Education with Let Youth Lead. We're very excited on behalf of Bridge to Success to introduce Let Youth Lead to you this year and the work that they've been putting together, especially around understanding the role, the function, and the authority of the Board of Education as it reflects on their experiences within the public school system. My name is Rosling Sotero. Roslyn is just fine. She, her, hers are my pronouns. I'm the director of community schools with Waterbury Bridge to Success. And I am one of your hosts for this evening or for this afternoon. I'm actually going to pass the mic quickly to my other co-host. Shania, please tell the folks who you are.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shania Labisi. I am the Let Youth Lead liaison and your host for today.
Shania is going to make sure that we stay positive, that we are here to have fun and learn together and enjoy a space. So thank you for helping me with this, Shania. Shania, who do we have first up on the deck? Who's going to tell us about Bridge to Success? Because folks need to know.
So the person we have talking about Bridge to Success is the one and only Althea Brooks.
Althea, talk to us.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. So good to see you on this snowy Wednesday. And hopefully my background gives you a feel of what we're experiencing here today. But a good afternoon to this really exciting conversation. I'm looking so forward to hear. Glad to be here. Again, Althea Marshall Brooks, Executive Director for Waterbury Bridge to Success. Honored and humbled to be a part of this team and this work. But a bit about Bridge to Success. We were formed in 2010, established as the state's first cradle to career initiative. We're a cross-sector partnership of community and civic leaders, educators, powerful young people, organizations working collectively to achieve equitable change in our cities and across systems by empowering Waterbury's youth, families, and communities to be successful for all of them in school, career, and or life. Next slide. And the work happens across our building blocks. And they happen in three buckets: building capacity, building power, and building community. As it says there, for our building capacity work, it's really offering time, talent, and our treasure to all of our partners and stakeholders to provide support and connect partners with trainers and experts, to provide TA or technical assistance and consultative support, one-on-one coaching, thought partnership, and the ability to help them access broader networks to promote continuous improvement towards systems change and ultimately systems transformation. The second bucket, building power. BTS recognizes the power of communities and the individuals therein to actualize change, understand systems transformation, and that it's only possible when communities, particularly Black and Latinx individuals, that they're equipped with the tools, mindsets, that they need to be full, active, and vibrant participants in public life, and thus have more control of their own destinies, that it is self-actualized in many ways. And through this collaborative and community-based efforts, we build power and shift power and influence of those with the least access to opportunity. The last one, building community. Part of, you see a lot of that here today. We believe in the power of the village and seek to build meaningful relationships by curating joyful and decolonized co-learning spaces and co-creating them as well that invite stakeholders to rebuild and sustain nets that work for them and their community. Next slide. This slide, a quote from me: there are opportunities for broader community and student level change and greater opportunities to align systems for long-term and sustainable impact. This graphic here really speaks to the work of BTS. Centering racial equity is a priority for us. We're very intentional about it and unapologetic about it. And this graphic here, as you can see here, the reality is not everybody has the same starting point. There's a great commercial by Phoenix University that says, talent and gifts are equally distributed, but opportunities are not. So then when you think about equality, well, if everybody has the same box, then everybody should have the same outcomes, but that's not the case, as you can see there. Our goal, and as we've been working on, is equity, but ultimately, it's not just about everybody being able to see the game, but actually have access and full participation to be in the game. So liberation is the goal. So thank you so much for having the opportunity to tell you a bit about BTS. And I'll turn it back over to your esteemed host, Mr. Shinayu.
Thank you, Althea. Can we have a round of applause for Althea, please? Thank you, everyone. Next up,
So,
I'm gonna
I was going to ask you a question now. Can I ask you the question?
of course.
So everyone is here because they want to know who Let Youth Lead is, right? And we're going to tell them what Let Youth Lead does, what they're all about, but we need to know who the people are. So can you tell them who makes up the team, and really introduce your esteemed team members of the of the think tank?
So part of the Let Youth Lead team is Melanie Adams, Brianna Calla, Melanie Adames, Brianna Calla, Chanel Gonzalez, Irene Once, of course, me, Smith Bernard, and Amina Makhtar.
Absolutely.
And going into further depth is Irene Once.
Wonderful. Irene, tell us, what is Let Youth Lead? When did you get started, and what is the real reason why you exist?
Okay, so Let Youth Lead is a group that was funded in 2019. It is a youth-led group and a BTS youth advisory think tank, which invites Waterbury Public School students to directly inform, improve, and expand BTS strategies to engage and empower the city's youth. And I'll pass it to Amina to introduce our goal for the 2022 year.
Hi everyone. To achieve this, Let Youth Lead plans to increase youth voices in local decisions affecting Waterbury Public School students by recruiting students to attend and participate in Board of Education meetings, to increase youth leadership opportunities for Waterbury Public Schools by attending, participating, and supporting positive youth development efforts. And also, you can check out our social media at BTS LYL. You can go and get more information there. And now I would like to pass over the mic to Shnayu.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Irene.
Shania, before you go, can I ask another quick question?
Of course.
Do you mind reading loud and proud on this screen what LYL's goal is? Let's make sure that everyone hears that right.
To build, English is difficult.
You got it.
To build youth power in Waterbury.
Let's say that again. Say it with our chest. What is our goal? What is Let Youth Lead's goal?
To build youth power in Waterbury.
Absolutely. I want to make sure that everyone hears that, right? Because Let Youth Lead is a name that y'all came up with. What was it before? Just the BTS Youth Advisory Think Tank. And I don't know about y'all, but that was boring. It was very boring, and it definitely does not match the energy that y'all bring to this space. And so Let Youth Lead is not just words, but it really means exactly what it is that y'all are looking to do. And I wanted to make sure everyone heard that. So who do we have next, Shania? What are we going into?
Next up, we have Smith Bernard explaining exactly what the deal is.
I love it. Smith, talk to us.
Yeah, so what's the deal? Two what's, whatever, third what. What's the Deal is a series of student-centered learning opportunities that Let Youth Lead will host throughout the year, both virtually, like now, and in person whenever available. Our goal is to ensure that students have the information that we need to advocate on behalf of our academic needs and interests. So right now, this is obviously the first What's the Deal event. It's an intro to the Waterbury Board of Education, and we're going to go through our agenda. The first thing on our agenda is the Board of Education fundamentals. After that, we're going to head into panel discussion. Then we're going to have a short break. Then after that, we're going to head to breakout rooms where we're going to discuss. We're going to share out what we discuss in those breakout rooms, come up with a call to action, and then have our closing remarks. Okay, and now I'm going to pass the mic back to Shania.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Smith. Can we have a large round of applause for Smith? Or if there are if any of those emotes work.
Absolutely. Who do we have next on the agenda, Shania? Who's going to talk to us about the Board of Education?
Next up, we have Brianna
Thank you, Shania. Hi guys, I'm Brianna, and we're gonna talk about the board members and what Waterbury Board of Education is. Also, before I start, I wanted to point out that there are, at the bottom with the asterisk, are the two new ones, Latoya Ireland and Maggie O'Brien. Now, the Waterbury Board of Education is a committee of elected commissioners who determine the educational policy of Waterbury Public Schools. Their mission is to inspire and prepare every student to be successful in and beyond school. The Board of Education has pledged to make the Waterbury Public School District the leader in the store for urban education reform, performance improvement, and efficiency. They intend to do this by holding high expectations for excellence, promoting equality, equity in policy, providing students a quality learning experience, committing to the embracing of the diverse community, acting as stewards for community resources, and recognizing that meaningful relationships are the foundation of a high quality education.
Thank you for that, Brianna. So that's just a quick overview, right, of the Board of Education. There's a lot of stuff to still learn about who they are and how they do their work, and also what is the role of students and parents, especially with regards to being able to advocate for their needs at the Board of Education. So this is just a taste, but what we're hoping is that our panel will help give a little bit more of a fuller picture around the Board of Education and give folks a little bit more insight as to how they do their work. So I'm going to pause again. I'm going to pass the mic to Shania so that we can introduce our very first panelist. Shania, who is our first?
Introducing our first panelist, we're introducing Latoya Ireland.
I'll take over for at least Latoya's bio, and then we'll have other folks introduce the rest of our panelists. So when we are talking about Latoya Ireland, a lifelong Waterbury resident, Latoya Ireland is a Democratic commissioner on the Waterbury Board of Education. She believes strongly that parents and guardians should be at the table when important decisions such as budget, teacher recruitment, policies, and procedures are being made and voted on. A seasoned leader, Latoya wears many hats in service of the city she loves. She is the founder of For Right Now, Inc., a local nonprofit incorporated in 2017 to help individuals and families with basic needs. She is a member of the Waterbury Democrat Town Committee, 7th 3rd District, a member of the Waterbury Black Democratic Club, a member and the second vice president of the Greater Waterbury NAACP branch, and also serves as a co-advisor of the Waterbury Pride NAACP Youth Council. I don't know if y'all are getting this, but Latoya is busy. She is busy, she is involved, she is active. In addition, she serves as the parent leader for Parents of Waterbury Bridge to Success family engagement can that seeks to provide parents and caregivers with the tools and resources that they need best to support their children and families and communities. Latoya Ireland still resides in Waterbury with her husband and 2 daughters, one of which is Kayla, who graduated from Wilby High School, and another sophomore, and is currently a sophomore at Post University, and also Shamira, who currently attends North End Middle School. Can we get a round of applause for Latoya, who will be joining us and bringing all of her wisdom and insight as the new commissioner? Beautiful. I'm going to pass it to Irene. Irene, can you please introduce Fatima Ali? Who is she?
Yes, so Fatima Ali, her pronouns are she, her. She's a senior at Waterbury Career Academy and a student representative for the Waterbury Board of Education. Her role is to express the concerns of her ideas of peers, teachers, and parents in the discussion making process to ensure that they are well represented. She would personally love to see Waterbury students more prepared for college through more rigorous course selections and support through the application process and more community-based learning. She also looks forward to reach the vision even as a pressure higher education outside of Waterbury. And a fun fact about her is that she may or may not drink 4 cups of tea a day.
Everyone, a round of applause for Fatima. Please welcome her to the stage. Thank you.
I'll also pass the mic to Brianna so she can introduce Luis Ortiz.
Born and raised in the beautiful city of Orlando, Florida, Luis Ortiz, his pronouns are he, him, quickly learned to enjoy building community and seeing others thrive. From enlisting in the United States Air Force, thank you for your service, sir, to growing two outstanding community-centered grassroots organizations. He organized Florida and Make the Road Nevada, even coordinating a rally and march for Senator Bernie Sanders. For Lewis, life has always been about service before self. Today, serving as the bilingual organizer for CONCAN, Lewis finds himself now advocating for what he believes is the most important factor for our communities, a great education. Now I'm going to give the mic over to Smith.
Round of applause for Luis. Welcome him, welcome him. Smith, take over.
Yeah. Introducing Melanie Adames. She, her. She serves as the youth representative, as the youth representative and chair of Let Youth Lead, a youth advisory think tank for Waterbury Bishop success. And in our role, there are responsibilities for centering young people's lives, life experiences, and expertise to generate new ideas and push for the BTS mission and vision to build, transform, and sustain Waterbury's children, youth, and families in school, career, and life. Melanie is looking forward to getting involved in the community and helping out in initiatives to support the great future of our community. It is her vision that Let You Lead will expand its current platform to engage with more youth voices in the city of Waterbury. Melanie is a Waterbury Public School student, and in their spare time, she likes to volunteer to the community and play the drums and work with youth.
Beautiful. Round of applause for Melanie. Let's welcome her as well to the stage. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because that makes this much more personable. Folks should be able to see each other, and also our panelists are spotlit so that you can see them front and center. So let's get this conversation started. We have a few questions that we want to ask y'all from your own perspectives, experiences, and expertise in the roles that you hold. And the first one I'm going to offer is to Latoya and Fatima. We heard from Let Youth Lead what the general mission is for Board of Education. We had a quick of a summary around what they are, but a lot of these terms can get confusing, right? We hear Board of Education, we hear Waterbury Public Schools. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Where's the overlap, right? And so my first question to you, and maybe we can start with Latoya and then have Fatima come in after, is what is the difference between Waterbury Board of Education and Waterbury Public Schools? And then we can go into how they influence each other. But what is the difference between them?
Thank you again for having me. Again, I'm Latoya Ireland. So the difference is the board is made up of 10 elected officials. The board they're elected through our community, and the board, they're responsible for the maintenance, the operation. The public schools are required by the charter of the city of Waterbury. And so the school is informational, we go there to learn. Our teachers are there to teach, but the Board of Ed is there to implement policies.
So I'm hearing a slight difference is that one, we have Board of Education members who are elected, and that's different from when we're thinking about who operates, runs, and is participating in our Waterbury Public Education, Waterbury Public Schools. And I'm also hearing that a huge part of it is they're elected because they're overseeing and implementing policy. Thank you for that. Fatima, do you have anything to add, or do you feel like Latoya covered it with that? Is there something else that's missing?
I think she did pretty much cover it. Just an analogy to, I guess, make it easier to understand. I would say the Board of Education is like the executive branch of our government in a sense, where the policies are created, but they implement those policies and make sure that we're reaching our goal.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was a great analogy. So if you can give an example, again, going back to Latoya and Fatima, if we understand that the Board of Education is responsible for policy, can you give an example of what that means? Like, what is a policy that the Board of Education would need to address, entertain, or implement?
So I believe a perfect example would be the mask we had the issue of going with mask mandate, but now it was optional. So the Board of Education had to come together and create a policy or come up with something that's for the students and parents.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that absolutely answers it. So we have an idea of what they are, the little bit of a difference in the distinction between Waterbury Public Schools and the Board of Education. I absolutely love the team. I love your analogy. I think that's really helpful. If we get into the nitty gritty, if you will, around the everyday experiences of students and even parents who participate in the system, what would you offer as some of the major concerns or major issues that are currently facing students and parents in our Waterbury Public School system? And I'm going to go to Luis and bring your voice in first, and then we can go around. But what are some of these issues that come to the top of your mind when we think about what's going on with students and families?
No, definitely. And thank you everyone for being on this call and giving me the opportunity to dive a little deep about some of the injustices or issues that we might be seeing within the Waterbury system. Something that stands out a lot to us at ConCan is the suspension rates. We're noticing that our Latinx students are 2 times more likely to be suspended than their white counterparts. And our Black students have a 2.7 times more likely to be suspended than their white counterparts. And it changes when you look into the difference of in-school suspension versus out-of-school suspension. In-school suspension, we're noticing in Waterbury, they're averaging about 30 in-school suspensions per every 100 students, whereas the state average is only 9 per 100 students. And very similar results we're seeing in the out-of-school suspension, where Waterbury public school system is suspending on average around 27 per 100 students versus the 5 per 100 students on the state average. It's also something that stood out significantly, and it's the ratio for social workers. We all know that mental health is a real thing, and if we don't know that, I suggest that you relearn what it is, because it's a very significant thing that's affecting our students and everyone currently. And COVID-19 and the remote learning and what we all went through during the pandemic certainly did not help us deal with those issues. So when it comes in regards to social workers, we're noticing, that the current ratio is about 580 students per social worker, although the National Association of Social Workers recommend it be at around 250 students per social worker. So we see some things that are concerning, and together, there's definitely ways that we can advocate to make sure that we can rectify these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that and starting us off with that, Louis. So I'm hearing things and concerns around just discipline practices and policies across the district, right? And how it's disproportionately affecting our Brown and Black students. And I think it's interesting that you coupled that with mental health, right? Or the supports within the schools around mental health. Melanie, I know that is something that's really important to you. We've talked a lot about student mental health. I wonder if you could share a little bit about what are some of the things that students are kind of holding and navigating that affects their mental health, and how is that showing up with school?
Sorry. Well, I mean, there's no doubt that throughout the past couple of years, we've definitely been through a lot, everyone. Some things that students are having to navigate is a lot of time management. When you're not so much as, I don't know where I was going with that, I'm not gonna lie.
You can start from the top.
A lot of times, you go to school, go home, wake up the next day, and it's the same thing all over again. It tends to get repetitive. You tend to get tired of it. So many other things happen. Now, when you're going to school and having to hear, where's your homework, instead of, hey, are you okay? It doesn't make it any better. I would really like to see, not so much as, where's your homework? So much as, hey, is there any particular reason you didn't do it or you don't have it? And just really opening it up to students so that they can feel like they have, that sense of you actually care.
Okay, so I'm hearing from you that whether it be a teacher or maybe even bringing in something that Luis mentioned around social workers, like, are there adults in the building that make it very clear and make consistent effort to show that they care, that there's an effort to build a relationship in addition to supporting your academic responsibilities? Is that what I'm hearing from you, Melanie?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I thank you for that. Fatima, as a student representative on the Board of Education, do you resonate with some of the things that Melanie is saying, and can you add to that?
Yeah, I definitely can. Mental health is also an issue that I was going to bring up, especially since the pandemic, and then transitioning back into in-person learning and regular classes when we were online is a lot harder when students are going through all of these things mentally. For me personally, my teachers have been really supportive and more understanding about it. And like Melanie said, asking, why don't you have your homework instead of why didn't you do it? Most of my teachers are very understanding, considerate, and they extend deadlines when needed and things like that. And I think the board has also pushed for social emotional learning, implementing things that focus more on that, which I think they're doing a great job. But a concern for me personally that I've been seeing kind of on a larger scale is that when we're focusing on students' mental health, I think it's important not to let that get in the way of maintaining academic rigor, because, like, yes, we do want to be lenient to allow students time to kind of like recover from whatever they're going through mentally, but we also want to encourage them to still do their homework, show up to school, take harder classes. And I've noticed personally that a lot of students are discouraged, not discouraged, but like they discourage themselves from taking high level courses because maybe they think they can't do it, it's too much work, things like that. So that's a big concern for me. I think we should definitely push for students to take those classes and support them along the way so it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm hearing a lot of connections between what folks are saying, in the sense that if there is one, if those supports exist, if those resources exist, even if those relationships are to exist between students and the adults in the building, that matched with an academic rigor. I love the way that you offered that, right? Like, coupling all of those things is going to fundamentally benefit all of our students. So I appreciate that. Latoya, I want to come to you in a moment, but I want to offer that when we had folks register for this event, we had a few questions for them. We were really nosy and we wanted to know, like, why are you interested in coming to this event? What are some of the topics that really, mean a lot to you? And so looking at some of the data that we collected with these registrations, and that's about 45 folks, right? It was overwhelmingly shown that the majority of registrants were very interested in the topic of student mental health, to the point where 70% of registrants said that that was their priority topic. And then, interestingly enough, one of the lowest interests was around student discipline policies. And I'm bringing that up because I think, Luis, what you had offered before is really interesting, and wondering, is there a disconnect that we all have? Is there a disconnect in our understanding between the way that student mental health component is impacted by our student discipline policies? And I want to just bring you back in. Do you see a connection there? Do you see or hear a disconnect in regular conversations with folks? How do those two things show up with one another?
No, definitely. And that's a fantastic question. The reality is that it differs. There really isn't a one size fits all formula to what is school discipline. You know, if you ask some folks in the community, they're going to say they're being too harsh. If you ask other folks in the community, they're going to say, no, they're not being harsh enough. These kids are going to school and fighting and destroying property. So it's really about perception and what your individual ideology is of what the school, what role the school should play for that child, and what role the school should play for the community, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, the reality is that it should not be a place where students can go and at some point potentially become incarcerated. That should be a place of nourishment. That should be a place of social development. The schools should be that place in the community where we're teaching one another to coexist, to empower another, and to live and set up a thriving community as brothers and sisters, right? So again, to reiterate, it really depends who you speak to, but for the most part, education should be to educate and not to incarcerate, if that is what we're looking at as far as like the discipline rates and what they're doing with those students afterwards.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Luis. And I wanted to bring that in because I think that we can all share different concerns, right? But how do we address that is a lot of times where we see difference, right? Like, how do we approach that issue? And so it's interesting to see if we care about student mental health. Do we have to play a little bit more or involve ourselves a little bit more into the conversation, not just around supports and resources, but also about the way that our current discipline policies impact students and the way that they're able to navigate their school system. The other data that I want to offer, and LaToya, I want to bring you in on this, was second from student mental health, the most interested topic for registrants was family engagement. 68.2% of registrants indicated that that was one of their, and a topic that mattered to them. So I'm hearing our discipline rates can be, something that is important to look at. I'm hearing student mental health is important. What is the role from your perspective, LaToya, that family engagement plays when it comes to supporting our students? And do you see that at all connected to this focus on student mental health as well? Or do you see those as separate issues?
I think for family engagement should be more, just not engagement, but being involved in the process. I do think parents, we talk about discipline. It's just having parents more involved. And it's really, the kids and parents, families are struggling today. Today is a hard time. And, let's be honest, we're living in some hard times and, our youth are going through. But I think if we are supportive to the families, then we can be supportive to the students. In my belief, we have to reach the families first. And then if we reach the families, we can reach the students.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I want to bring LaToya and Luis back in again. So we've kind of laid a little bit of a landscape around what are some of these major issues, right? These major concerns, but we're here to talk about the Board of Education. So what role does the Board of Education play in these particular issues and concerns, right? What role does the Board of Education play when it comes to supporting student mental health? What role does it play with regards to discipline policies? What role does it play with regards to ensuring that parents and families have equitable access to be engaged and involved? So I'll start with Luis and then LaToya, and then even Fatima and Melanie. I would love for you to come in and hear your thoughts. But what role does the Board of Education play, Luis, in these concerns that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, just to speak on it briefly, because I really think that the best information will come from those serving on the board, which would be Fatima and LaToya. But it should be that extra limb into the community that's reaching out to the parents, gathering their feedback, gathering feedback from the students, looking at the data and the results from that data, and implementing policies that directly correlate with the needs of the community. What that looks like, again, it differs community to community, but their main goal should be to not make decisions before reaching out to the community and gathering all the feedback that they should be gathering.
So I'm hearing one of the major roles is that the Board of Education, though it is a decision-making body, cannot make those decisions by themselves. What is the efforts or what are the efforts that they need to take in order to involve students and families in that process? LaToya, please come in. What's the role of the Board of Education when addressing these particular matters or concerns?
Yes, so I was going to say my answer is kind of like on the same exact what Louis is, just as far as reaching out to the community, to the parents, hearing what they're saying, and then bringing it back to the board and looking at these policies and seeing, if anything needs to be changed, well, let's change it. If these policies aren't working, then perhaps maybe we can come together as a board and possibly change and look and see what's working and what hasn't been working. So definitely reaching out to the community, to the parents. And as Lewis said, putting your arm out there, reaching out there. And that's one reason why I ran as a parent. I am out there, I'm in the community, and I hear, you know, what the parents and sometimes even what the teachers are saying. So yeah, we have to have someone, you know, that's out there listening and bringing it back to the board, because maybe sometimes, maybe the board don't know. And I'm just using it as an example. Maybe sometimes they're not aware of certain things that are going on. So we do need someone that's in the community who really cares about our youth and that's going to bring back the information and relay it with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Latoya. Fatima, Melanie, thoughts on what the role of the Board of Education is with regards to addressing these issues?
Yeah, so I completely agree with what Louis said. I think it was very well said. Even though the board does make decisions, it can't make those decisions if it hasn't gathered data or talked to anyone in the Waterbury public school system. So a large what they do is gather information and it's presented, and based on the information that they've gathered, they make those decisions. And the board meetings are open for, it's broadcast live, and parents are welcome to attend and speak on issues, concerns, questions, anything that they have. And the board agendas for the meetings are also public, I believe. So parents can also run through that and participate. So there's a lot of ways that parents and families can get engaged. And it's important for them to get engaged because it's based on their engagement that decisions are made. So for example, the last board meeting that we had, the decision that they were going to make during that meeting was the mask optionals. And there were about 5 or 6 parents that came out and supported the mask optional policy, and that's why it was passed. So it is very important for parents to get involved.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm going to keep it on you, Fatima, for just a second, because as we know, right, you are one of the student representatives on the Board of Education. How did you go about that? What was that process like to become a student student representative on the Board of Education? What channels did you have to go to for any students who are tuning in? How do they, if they want to be you, right? If they want to be like you, or if they want to create and maintain their voice there, how do they go about that?
So I'm not sure if this differs from school to school, but I think the process is the same. So I was a member on the student council at Waterbury Career Academy since freshman year. So I've been involved with that. And then when I was a junior, the student council advisor, which is Mr. O'Toole for our school, he asked me if I was interested in it, and I told him I was. So we talked about it more, and I got connected with a senior that was doing it that year, and that's how I did it. And then for this year, Mary Jane is the newer student representative for Waterbury Career Academy, and she was also in the student council for a while. So I think it's done through student council for most high schools. I could be wrong, though, I'm not completely sure. But they do want to see people that are involved on the school level. And then once you kind of get involved on the school level, then you would be able to get involved on that level. And even if you're not part of student council and you're interested, I think you could ask anyone at the school or your principal, and they would, I guess, give you connections.
Absolutely, thank you. And you're absolutely correct. If you go onto Waterbury Public Schools website and you go under the Board of Education tab, there's a whole bunch of different downloadable materials, including the process by which student representatives are selected and what that process looks like. And it does include at least 2 representatives who are already existing on the student council for their respective schools. And there's 2 things I want to name with that, right? 1, so there is a process in place, right? But 2, not everyone feels comfortable like being in that leadership role, right? There's a lot that comes with that. There can be a lot of pressure, right? Maybe I don't feel comfortable speaking in front of other people, but because there's a connection between the student representatives on the Board of Education as well as the student councils in their respective schools, if you at least get to know your student council members, right? Build that relationship as a young person and let them know what are your needs, what your interests are, what your questions and your visions are. Someone like Fatima is able to bring that information back to the Board of Education. So you don't necessarily have to be in the leadership role, but you have leaders directly in your school that can support you. Melanie, come on in, because I feel like I can feel energy of you having questions. I know you do. Panelists are allowed to have questions too.
So just like a quick question for Fatima or Latoya, if you want to answer as well. So while you were talking about the Board of Ed and everything, I heard a lot of it's public, like it's public record and everything, but I didn't hear so much of how you guys are making sure that parents are aware that they're public, making sure that students know that they are welcomed in these spaces. You know what I mean? So that was just some food for thought.
Do you resonate with that, Melanie? Do you, prior to us even doing research as Let Youth Lead into the Board of Education, did you know that Board of Education meetings were public?
I did not. And I actually like tried looking them up a couple times, and it was just so difficult to even get to like the list of names of people who are on the board.
Yeah. So if I can turn that into a question to Fatima and Latoya, what are the ways in which the Board of Education ensures that parents and students know that they can access these meetings or can access their commissioners or can access these documents? What are some of those strategies that they're using or that y'all are using, excuse me?
So I know they use Parent Square on the different schools on Parent Square, and on the Waterbury Public School Facebook page and on the website. And
so a lot of it is electronic.
Right. So
okay.
As far as if you're talking about papers, I don't know if there's any papers going on like in the students' folders as such, but then you have individuals as my such that just share it on their Facebook page. But as far as the Board of Ed, yes, it is posted, but it's normally posted on the school's website, and they do send reminders out on Parent Square at the different schools.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any others that you wanted to add, Fatima, or did Latoya cover that?
She did pretty much cover all of them. I was just going to add that for me personally, I just tell friends or teachers about upcoming meetings for them to attend and kind of listen in. But I do think we could do a better job of promoting them, like maybe flyers or announcements during the school day. And like, I think if we could summarize like the agenda for the particular meeting, kind of tell people exactly what we're discussing, because the agenda that is on the website is lengthy, and then there's one that's a summary, but I do think we could formulate it in a way that's easy to comprehend and kind of get people more excited to listen in.
Wonderful, thank you. So I heard some of the things that are already existing, and I heard some suggestions as well. I appreciate that. I have two more questions before we wrap up, because we definitely want to get into our breakout rooms soon enough so that we can hear from those who are attending. What are your main concerns? What are your suggestions and recommendations? And what role are you interested in playing with regards to improving and supporting Waterbury Public School education? But I'll offer two last questions to wrap up our panel. I'm hearing a lot about the importance of students and parents being involved and engaged and a part of this process, right? And it sounds as much as it is about participation. I'm wondering, just thinking about even the makeup of our Board of Education, do you feel that the commissioners on the table reflect Waterbury communities? And that could mean many things, right? We could be talking about age, we could be talking about what role do you play, or your what occupation you have in the city, right? Maybe what neighborhood you're from. We could be talking about culture, we could talk about gender, politics, what have you. There's so many different ways that we could define Waterbury communities. But do you feel like the Board of Education is a good reflection of our communities, and therefore can effectively represent the needs and interests and visions of Waterbury Public School students and families? And I'll start with Fatima, I'll go to Luis, Latoya, and then end with Melanie.
So from the meetings that I've attended in the past, I've definitely noticed that all of the commissioners do have differing viewpoints on the policies that the board has discussed. So usually a policy or something presented, and sometimes commissioners go back and forth and they have opposing or differing viewpoints. And sometimes one commissioner will have the same viewpoint that I do, and sometimes they have a different viewpoint that other students that I know do. So from my experience, they do represent Waterbury community as well, but that's just my experience.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that where you were going with that is the difference or the diversity in thought or the diversity in perspectives that are represented on the board. So appreciate that. Luis, come in. Do you feel like the Board of Education, the Waterbury Board of Education, well reflects Waterbury communities and is therefore able to advocate on their behalf?
Definitely. So to be clear, I am not a resident of Waterbury. I actually live in Groton. So to answer like it doesn't reflect, I don't think I'd be the best person to answer that. But what I will say is that compared to other districts in the state, I see two phenomenal things happening right now. They have a student board member, so they're already taking into consideration student opinion, student voices, and they have a parent who advocates for the community in Latoya. Not every district, not every school system, not every board has individuals as such. So maybe it's not perfect, but Waterbury definitely is taking that step in the right direction. And hopefully together after this call, we can come up with more ideas to make that system more inclusive and more reflective of the Waterbury community.
Thank you for that, Latoya. Thank you. I was looking at Latoya when I said it. Thank you for that, Luis. Latoya, come on in.
So I would like to say that they are moving in that direction. When you talk about diversity, like in experience or having information, I would definitely say that. But I would say, I would like to see more teachers and parents and more student representatives on the board. But I would definitely say that they're moving in the right direction as far as having a parent elected and having student representatives and actually expressing and being able to come back and share what, how they feel. So to say all that, to say, I believe that they are moving in the right direction. And as of now, yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And it's very forward thinking. And as we continue to talk about recommendations and suggestions, I think that's definitely the direction that we're looking for. Melanie, I want to bring you in. Do you feel like the Board of Education best reflects Waterbury communities, however you define that?
I definitely agree with Latoya. I feel like we're definitely getting there and getting to that point where eventually will reflect us. I feel like everything that has had to be said has been said. You guys did great. And yeah.
Are there certain folks that you would like to see on the Board of Education or represented at the Board of Education that you don't currently see? And that's to Melanie.
I would definitely like to see more youth and more teacher voice. I feel teacher voice also plays a very big part.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, even for this discussion, though we were really focusing on students and parents, teachers play an incredibly important role in making sure that our education system runs the way that it needs to, right? They're in the trenches, they're on the ground with young people every day. And so they're an incredibly important part of this as well. Thank you for highlighting that, Melanie. So I have one last question, and we've kind of talked about it, here and there, but I guess I'm looking more for your final statement, if you will, with something that you want folks to really leave with regards to the role of the Board of Education. And that is, what power do students and families have to shape and enact the change that they would like to see in Waterbury Public Schools, right? So I'm going to repeat that. What power do students and families have to shape and enact the change that they're looking for in Waterbury Public Schools? And I'm going to start with Luis, I'll go to Fatima, I'll go to Melanie, and then I'll go to Latoya. Luis, start us off.
Yeah, for sure. The power that's in your hands is the community's power. You're representing the entire community. You're hoping to see the whole community change. And that is power, and you're taking the right steps and advocating for it. A couple things I would just like to refresh folks on is that with the No Child Left Behind law, schools are now forced to publish detailed information regarding teacher quality, student performance, and their finances. You know, parents and students alike can take this public information, go back to the drawing boards and see if this backs up their claims or concerns. And in the day and age that it is today, you know, 2022, you know, everyone is tapping into that internet right now. Everyone's tapping into the power that is the World Wide Web. And we're seeing parents and students from all over the states creating these groups advocating for the change that they want to see. So really the question is, how far are you willing to take that power that you have to see the change that you wanted to see in your community, in your school system?
That talk about a power statement. I appreciate that, Luis. And I'm hearing too, it doesn't just take one parent or one student, right? Like I heard you say community intentionally, right? Like who is your village that you're able to lean on and execute a collective power, and make sure that you're showing up in that essence. Thank you for that. Fatima, Melanie, and then Latoya.
Yeah, so to add to that, I kind of want to go back to the mission statement of the Waterbury Board of Education, and it's to inspire and prepare everyday students to be successful in and beyond school. So what that tells us is students are the mission statement. It's the end goal that the board has, and they're investing into students. All the decisions that they make and things that they do is to help students succeed in the future. And if students come to them and they have a concern and they're telling them, this is how we're going to succeed, this is what I want to see to be more successful in the future, they're going to listen to them. So you very much have all the power as a student, because you're what they're investing in and they want to hear from you. And you can always email like anyone on the board, Dr. Ruffin, teachers, principals, they're always looking to hear your ideas and what you have to say.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you're saying it in a way of like, you can make declarative statements, right? They don't always have to be questions or like, could we, right? It could be very succinct and very confident, saying, this is what we need, and then insert that need there. Melanie, come on in. What is the power of students? What power do students have to enact the change that they want to see?
I feel like we have all the power. It's just a matter of how we apply it, in a sense. If everyone, let's say, could come into an agreement to where, okay, we want this, this, and that, we're going to get this, this, and that, I feel like everything that we could accomplish is inevitable.
Wow, that's very confident. And I appreciate the confidence in that voice, because what I'm hearing from both Fatima and Melanie is that the power relies in your ability and the trust to use your voice in the right spaces. Latoya, end us out. What power do, and I'm going to ask you to focus on families, what power do families and parents have to enact the change that they're looking for?
So when we talk about power, like we think of being strong and mighty, but I think of power is just having the ability to act, right? So parents have the ability to use your voice, the ability to send an email, the power in your experience, right? So just the ability just to act and just leaving a voicemail message, email, and just power, you know, using your experience as your power.
Absolutely. Thank you. And being able to lean on experience is important, right? Just in the exact same way that we said and agreed that teachers play an incredible role because they're in the trenches, parents are in the trenches too, students are in the trenches too, right? So you have to be able to trust your experience to inform what visions you're looking to create with others. So thank you for that. That is the end of our panel discussion. Folks, can I please get a round of applause for our panel? Put stuff in the chat, give some praise. I definitely saw some of the things going off in the chat. Use those emojis. Thank you so much to Latoya Ireland, to Fatima Ali, to Luis Ortiz, to Melanie Adames for all bringing in your expertise, your experience, and your visions for what this school district can look like, especially through the decision-making body of the Board of Education. Those, I mean, there's a lot there. That was very meaty. I heard a lot there. And I'm thinking, again, bringing it back to one of the very first things that Latoya brought into the space in the panel discussion, which is what is the role of the Board of Education? And it's specifically around policy, right? So I'm thinking about with what you're saying, how is that connected to policy, right? What does that look like with regards to what are the qualifications or the expectations that we have with teachers, right? Especially if you're not from a city like Waterbury or Waterbury itself, how do you become familiar with this city and invested? Or what does that look like around hiring practices? practices? What does that look like around professional development expectations, right? These are all discussion points that can be put in front of the Board of Education if they're of concern for folks, right? So thank you. Those are great takeaways to offer into the space. Last but not least, Fatima, what came up in your breakout? What were you typing away?
So there's two things I want to talk about from the breakout rooms, but before I talk about that, I just wanted to point out that this whole seminar meeting has been really insightful, and it's so great to hear from parents, teachers, students, and I just wish we'd done something like this earlier because it gave so much insight, and I think this is something that we should do regularly because you do get raw feedback. And if you do it maybe after each board meeting, before each board meeting, something like that, where you do get a lot of insight and then this information is presented to the board. So then they have issues and suggestions to talk about in the future. I think that would be a great idea. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into what we actually talked about. So the first thing that a parent pointed out was for his kids, I think when he asked them who they would turn to in terms of emotional support, they always said friends. And for me personally, a lot of my peers would also say that they would turn to friends for emotional support and not so much teachers or social workers, which is an issue because first, the ratio to of students to social workers is low, so we need more of them, which we already talked about. And then also because even though a resource might be there, it doesn't mean students are going to utilize it because they need to learn to trust those resources. They need to know that this is someone that you can trust and they're not just there. So if we are to bring more social workers in because we do need a better ratio, I think they should interact with students regularly, the whole student body regularly, so they can get to know them and be more comfortable around them before going to them one-on-one. Something else we talked about is, so we did ask parents what the role they would play in the improving Waterbury education, and they really wanted students to advocate for themselves, which is also something that we're not really seeing because I think LaToya brought it up, that students were afraid to speak up because they didn't want to say something wrong. So I think just letting students know that they can speak up and that they can say whatever's on their mind because we need to hear their voices and what they want to see done and improvements that they want to see.
Absolutely love that. That sounds again, very meaty. I'm here for all of this. And I'm also glad that all of these conversations were, scribed, that we do have minutes to be able to refer back to because we are not in the business, and that's generally for BTS and definitely for Let Youth Lead. We're not in the business of asking questions for just the sake of asking them, right? We are wanting to gain this insight from you so that we can readily use it and leverage it with regards to how we move forward. What initiatives do we need to back? What initiatives do we need to lead, right? What information do we need to continue to share? What's the deals need to show, need to come next, right? So I really appreciate what I'm hearing is honest, transparent, really authentic conversations in those breakouts. And that was just 20 minutes. So shout out to all of y'all. That was fantastic. So before we end, and I'm being mindful of time, I am going to quickly share my screen. And Chanel, I'm going to pass the mic to you so that we can give folks a few action items, if you will, right? How can they continue this conversation? What can they do to take action? So let me share my screen again and get all these technicals out the way. Perfect. So Chanel, the mic is yours. What are we offering to our audience today as action items?
All right, so some of the things that we are giving y'all are attending monthly the Board of Education meetings. This way you can stay up to date about any current decisions that are being made for Waterbury Public Schools, and you can also raise awareness about the Board of Education discussions and decisions, and then share them with your networks. And then as long as just going to them, share what you have to share, and issues that matter to you, tell them. They want to hear it, just speak your mind. For parents, you can connect with or run to become a Board of Education Commissioner. For students, you can connect with or become a Board of Education student representative to advocate for your needs and interests. You can also attend Let Youth Lead membership meetings. They're the third Wednesday of the month from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also follow LYL's Instagram to stay up to date with critical decisions and opportunities. And the third Thursday of the month, at 6:30 p.m., there's live streams, which is the next meeting coming up, which is March 17th. So these are what you can do to get involved and take action.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Chanel. Definitely shout that out. And for this bullet point around you can run to become a Board of Education Commissioner, Latoya did it, right? Latoya went all through the trials and errors around what that looks like. It's hard to run a campaign. It's a very real thing. But Latoya, can I ask if someone was interested, really interested in taking that course and becoming a Board of Education Commissioner and representing parents through that seat, would you be able to be a resource that they could reach out to learn how to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We love the connection. Fatima, I'm going to put the same question on you. If we have students who are interested in maybe taking the same course of action that you did to become a student representative on the Board of Education, can they lean on you to learn how to do that?
Yes, 100%.
Perfect. Fantastic. Make sure that you know who's in the room. We, of course, will share really important information following this event so that you have what these suggestions are. You have resources around how do you navigate Waterbury Public Schools website, right? Because there's a lot of information there. To Melanie's point, it exists, but do we know that, right? Do we know where to access it and what information is available? So we'll make that available to you following this event. Yeah, perfectly mentioned in the beginning, we are very much invested in cultivating meaningful opportunities for young people to lead. Let Youth Lead is one of those, is an expression of that investment. In addition, we also last year hosted a youth summit, a virtual youth summit in June, featuring various different workshops that were led by both adults and young people around mental health, around racial justice, and around just generally what does it mean to be a youth leader. We are going to be bringing back that conference this year, May 21st. Save the date. Make sure you stay in touch with BTS. Make sure you stay in touch with LYL so you can learn more and get those relevant updates. So can I get a round of applause from everybody again using those emojis? Let me see your faces light up. Put it in the chat. We are closing up. You've made this event incredible. Shout out to LYL. Shout out to our panelists. I want to make an honorable mention about some of the folks who joined us from the central office. We had Dr. Ruffin here. I saw Jay Gopi in here, assistant superintendent. I saw Matt Brown from central office here. So shout out to y'all and thank you for joining this space and learning more from the perspective of young people, parents, and community members around what's working, what's not working, and what can be improved moving forward. Before we go, I'm going to encourage y'all, make sure you follow us on social media, hit us up on Instagram, DM us. LYL has a really nice platform. They are very accessible. You DM them with a question, with a vision, with an interest, they will hit you back. And also make sure you take out your phones, hover it over the screen that's in front of you so that you can complete that post survey. It is incredibly important that we hear feedback from you about how this event showed up for you, what we could do better moving forward, especially considering that this is only the first of many What's the Deal series moving forward. And if you cannot scan that code, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. So either click the link in the chat or scan it on the screen, but make sure we get your feedback. And with that, I say, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you again in a BTS and LYL platform very, very soon. Thank you all.
flowers bloom. I hope your flowers bloom. I hope your flowers bloom. I hope you grow up to be everything that you want to. I hope your flowers bloom. I hope your